from the News Channel 5 Network. This is Score on Business.
Hey, welcome to Score on Business. I'm Pete Hendricks. I'm your host today, and I'm a serial entrepreneur. So many prospective entrepreneurs aren't sure where to start, and we'll provide a tip on each show. Also, Score offers low-cost classes and no-charge counseling specifically to guide folks through thinking about starting and succeeding in business. More information is available at scorenashville.org. Make sure to click on the Workshops tab at the top of the page. They are usually on Saturdays and about $25 a pop. Your tip for this show, you have to think about how you're going to gain customers. That is one continual challenge that we see with entrepreneurs. You know, the business cards and all are great, but until you have customers, you don't have a business. And so with that, our guest is Dr. Daniel LeBreton, who is the founder of Impavid Consulting. And he utilizes the best of organizational psychology and social science and has helped hundreds of managers and executives develop more effective leadership skills and habits. He often speaks about leadership practices that build relationships of trust, contribute to uplifting work cultures, and inspire people. So, David, thanks for being here.
Thanks.
I called you David.
It's okay.
I'm sorry, Daniel.
That's right. It's good to be here.
So, as an organizational psychologist, you help companies build and sustain culture. What do you see as the biggest threat to a great culture for small business?
That's a great question. I think sort of surprisingly, the thing that seems to be a big threat to culture for small businesses is growth. So if we think about businesses as falling into either kind of a slow growth or a fast growth mode, fast growth companies are ones that are growing, say, 20 to 200% year over year. Slow growth would be organizations, from 0 to 20%. And what we see is that in the first 2 years of an organization's existence, if you look at employee happiness, it's very high in the fast growth companies. Lots happening. It's an exciting time. There's just good things ahead, and so employees are energized and engaged and so forth. But in years 3 and 4 for fast growth companies, there's this big drop off in employee happiness. They just aren't enjoying their work nearly as much. And it drops way down below where the slow growth company employees' happiness levels are. And so the sort of consensus explanation of that is that there's so much of an emphasis in the fast growth companies in years 3 and 4 around things like getting our product to market and expanding into new markets and improving our efficiencies and utilizing technology and all these things that are really about our product and services and growing our business. There's so much energy and time focused on that there really isn't a lot of attention focused on the employees. And so on the one hand, we're not really paying attention to what our employees want and need. And on the other hand, we're apt to be pressing on them a lot harder, right? Because we're growing fast and there's all these demands. And so so that tends to hurt morale, hurt kind of the sense of fulfillment, engagement that employees have in an organization. So it's a little bit paradoxical. You usually think of growth as being part of success, but it can also work the other way around and actually hurt the culture that we're trying to build in an organization.
And when you talk about culture, there is very much a cost to a culture that's not good. And these numbers may not be exactly correct, but my understanding is roughly 30% of employees are engaged across a bunch of industries. And a lot of executives focus on key performance indicators and return on investment and all of that, but I will always believe nothing happens without people. The computers don't matter. People make things happen, and when companies can tap into the human spirit, that's when the real magic happens. And there's a lot of money involved in that.
Absolutely. I mean, well, one of the things I tell most of my clients all the time is stuff like, sometimes we get so focused on tasks and objectives that we forget about people and relationships. But it's the people and the relationships that are at the heart of every great success story. So that's 100% right. And there's a huge competitive advantage that comes, with paying attention to culture and getting that part right in our organization. So, would you like me to talk about that a little bit?
Well, heck yeah.
Sure. So the cost. I mean, if you want to talk about sort of the cost and benefits of culture in organizations, and you were hitting on it. There's only about 30% of employees feel deeply engaged in their work. So why does that matter, right? As an employer, why should I care about that? As a business owner, why would I care about that? Well, there's a whole bunch of positive outcomes that are associated with a really engaged workforce, with people feeling that the culture is positive and vibrant and those sorts of things. So it's things like almost double the level of energy from our employees, much higher levels of productivity, performance, greater commitment to the organization, a higher level of belief in information that we're receiving from our leaders. So when we have a positive work culture, we're less skeptical of our leaders, and we're much more committed to the decisions that our leaders make. So where they want us to follow, we'll follow. We'll commit to their decisions. And then on the other side, we avoid things like stress. So we have lower stress levels for employees, less burnout, fewer sick days, and less turnover in an organization. So there's a recent study that was really fascinating. It was published earlier this year that indicated that if a business owner rates culture on a scale of 1 to 10, a 1 through a 9 in terms of how important it is, they don't rate it a 10, they rate it a 1 through 9. There's a 70% greater likelihood that they're going to have voluntary turnover, which means they're going to have people quitting and looking for work elsewhere.
Right.
The organizations that can avoid that are the ones that view culture as being absolutely critical to their success. The 10s, the leaders, the owners that rated a 10 are the ones who avoid that kind of turnover.
Right.
So there's tremendous advantages in terms of productivity, performance, commitment, all
and
those
it
sorts
comes
of things.
Yeah, awesome.
Absolutely.
So you just talked about that. What distinguishes strong organizational cultures from weak ones?
Yeah, that's a great question too. And there's a lot of different things. There's a lot of different sort of facets to culture, and a lot of different aspects of how we can define a positive culture versus maybe a negative culture at work. But I think the most critical thing.
Hey, Daniel, we probably ought to take a break,
Sure.
and then we'll come back and get back on that
great.
question. So we'll be right back. Thank you.